Hey guys, welcome back to A Year of Final Fantasy, and this is the penultimate month, the second to the last month, and this is the month of Garuda, and we are going to be talking about the second MMO in the franchise, which is Final Fantasy XIV, at the end of the month. But before then, we got a whole lot of different topics to cover, so yeah, let's just get into it. Surprisingly, I'm talking about the most recent release in the franchise, the Final Fantasy franchise, in this video, and that is pretty cool, and I've actually done a lot of reviews on these that have been taken quite well, and of course I'm talking about the arcade brawler of Dissidia Final Fantasy NT, hereafter referred to as Dissidia because that's a long name, and that is on the PlayStation 4. Now, while I have done, like I said, a rather lengthy review of it, these are Year of Final Fantasy videos, so they're more for informational purposes than, you know, reviews, but you know what, I'll give my background and some little information of my own, but if you want to see my feelings on the game, go ahead and watch those reviews. Anyway, let's get down to it. So Dissidia Final Fantasy was talked about here before, and you can check out those videos if you want, and that was the original games that came out on the PlayStation Portable, and they were sort of an RPG kind of fighter hybrid. It's a really strange series of games, but since that release on PSP, everyone, including myself, was ready for a true console version of the game, and here we are. In November of 2015, Dissidia NT was released in arcades in Japan, where apparently arcades are still a big thing that I did not know, but now you know, that's a thing. For consoles, the game was released on January 30th, 2018 in the western part of the world, and a few weeks earlier on the 11th for Japan. The game actually features several differences from its handheld counterparts, namely the first thing that jumps out is obviously the game right now is a 3 versus 3 affair instead of 1-on-1. Also, NT dispenses with the RPG mechanics basically entirely, such as the gear and leveling, in turn for a more straightforward arcade experience because, well, it was in the arcades. So that isn't to say that there isn't anything cool to collect here. There's some icon skins, weapon skins, along with some different chat messages and stuff like that. It's very, very similar to Overwatch if you've ever played that. In the game, you can get these by either getting what are essentially loot boxes, they're these weird kind of ring things, but you can also earn money in the form of gil and just basically buy whatever you want to buy. As of this recording, there are no microtransactions that are monetarily like real money, but that could change at any point in time. Anyway, the game boasts 28 characters at launch, which I'll be displaying now, and each main protagonist from their respective properly numbered games, as well as Ace from Type 0 and Ramza from Tactics features here. One thing to note is Final Fantasy IV actually has 2 different characters, that would be Cecil and Kain. The rest of the roster is filled out with the main antagonists for each game up until Final Fantasy XI, so that means that there's no Arden or Caius, sadly, because I really enjoy those. I would expect that they're going to be coming with DLC sooner rather than later. The first batch of DLC has been formally announced and it's going to have 6 characters in it, but we don't know exactly who those are yet. The word is that the developers are having at least 50 total characters as their goal, but in some interviews you can actually see that it's been stated that 50 actually seems like a rather small number to them, which is more the merrier, I guess. Some of these, though, include that Tetsuya Nomura would like to see Minwu from Final Fantasy II, Ichiro Hazama said he'd like to see Umaro from Final Fantasy VI and Aron for Final Fantasy X. Others that have worked on the Final Fantasy franchise have put in their inputs. Beatrix from Final Fantasy IX has been heard. Rhinoa, having that partner mechanic in the form of Angelo from Final Fantasy VIII, has also been thrown around. And there's some others, but if you want to go find those, feel free. There are 14 stages in this game, each having a size rating as well as a verticality rating, so there aren't just basically pretty places to look at. They actually do have some purposes and influence the fight in some ways. Summons are actually quite important in this game, as not only do they provide their impressive attacks like you would expect a summon to, they also provide bonuses to the team before and after they're summoned. So you can think of summons kind of like a team mascot, I guess. There are 7 summons currently in the game, but I expect those will probably increase with DLC. The combat works generally as it did in the original games. You have 2 different types of attacks. One of them is called a bravery attack and the other is called an HP attack. Now there are lots of different types of bravery attacks and various types of HP attacks that are completely dependent on the character that you're playing. Each character plays incredibly different from every other character. Each player starts with a bravery score just to kind of give you an idea of the battle. When you're hit with a bravery, your own bravery decreases, and then theirs actually goes up and increases by that amount. At any time, you can essentially sacrifice your bravery and perform what is known as an HP attack, which if you hit the opposing character, they will lose HP, and if you have enough bravery, you can actually knock them out in a single hit. And the goal of the game is to just provide 3 knockouts or incapacitations. Each character is classified under one of 4 different fighter types, which are Vanguard, Assassin, Marksman, and Specialist. Furthermore, each character has, like I said, their own specialties that differentiates them in a huge way, such as one of my favorite characters, Lightning. She has a Paradigm Shift command, which you can press L3, and then you can change from a more melee character to a Ravager, which is like a ranged character. It's really cool. Beyond that, there's special general moves known as X moves, which you can equip to any character. Those are things like HP regen or different kind of buffs like defense buffs or sharing your bravery around. There's a lot of different things that you can collect and then, tweak your character how you want them to play. To win a match, like I said, you got to incapacitate an opposing team member 3 times. Now there's 3 people on the opposing team, and it doesn't really matter who you incapacitate, you just have to do it 3 times. Interestingly, if you are incapacitated, you get to revive yourself almost nearly instantly. Maybe a few seconds between the time that you're incapacitated, but it's not a long time. So this actually provides some of the drawbacks to the game, and this is kind of me seeping into my review a little bit, but I'm gonna talk about it. Playing this game online, which is a huge thing for the game, obviously, is the fact that you're not going to be able to work as a team very well. So if you have somebody that doesn't know how to play the game, you can lose the match incredibly quickly if the other team gangs up on them and you feel like you're doing well. It's not really going to matter. So that may be something that would frustrate you because you're basically losing and it's out of your hands pretty much. So I'll just leave it at that. If you want to hear more, go and watch my reviews. But anyway, there's also another type of match that you can take on, and it's kind of like, the best I could say is like a MOBA kind of genre match where you and your opposing team have crystals, and you have to destroy their crystal before they destroy you. And there's some other parts about that particular fighting match, such as you can be incapacitated for however many number of times you want. If you are near your crystal cannot be damaged, so people have to take you away. So there's different rules in there, and honestly, I didn't really like that battle type to begin with, but it's an interesting battle type. And I think it may be one of the better battle types, actually, the more and more I play the game. Unlike the arcade version here, at least originally, before they added it, NT does feature a storyline with many different cutscenes and different kinds of battles to facilitate the story. Now, it's not anything mind-shattering, but I was pleasantly surprised to see that, in fact, it does have a story, and the story is actually in continuity with the previous games. I thought that was fantastic. The story mode itself kind of plays out in a weird way because you just have to fight and then you unlock these things called Memoria, which allow you to access story memories, which is a weird way of going about it. I don't hate it, but I know a lot of people may not really enjoy that, but it is what it is. Other than that, the game modes that are actually featured here are basic. Essentially, you have a kind of gauntlet offline mode, which is what you would expect from most arcade fighters, such as you go in there, you're going to fight characters, and then you're going to go to the next one. They're going to be a little bit harder more and more. However, each time you progress onto the next phase, you can actually choose what challenge of characters you want to fight. So if you're not ready, or if you get just thrashed by fighting gold, you actually do have the option of fighting silver characters. And as you do that, you're going to get rewards, like I mentioned, those loot box ring things and gil and all that kind of stuff, as well as different bravery attacks for all of your characters and different X moves. And you'll also eventually be unlocking all of the summons as well. At the beginning of the game, you only get 1 summon, but then the incentive here is to play and get more summons and, really complete and flesh out the characters. One last thing that I do recommend is to pick up the guide for this game if at all possible, or go online and look at the guide, because if you really want to learn this game, there are some big flaws in it, such as you don't actually get to practice your character. They don't give you a tutorial for your character, and each character, like I said, is completely different than every other character. I don't know why that was left out, but you do need something like a guide to really get the full depth of this. If you go in just wanting to play for fun, then sure, no guide. But if you actually want to get good with a character, then you're gonna need one. It's, I say it's mandatory because it honestly is. The game teaches you nothing about individual characters. So as frustrating as it is, the guide I do recommend. So that's about it, guys. Hopefully if you like this, I know I've plugged it like 4 times already, but definitely go and check out that review. For me, I have a love-hate relationship with it, but even though I don't think it's the best game, it actually still keeps calling me, which is something that a lot of games have not been able to do, especially doing all this YouTube stuff. But I do find myself going to the game over and over because it does have a lot of depth whenever you scratch below the surface. So yeah, that's it. Next time we're going to be talking about a really cool subject that I have wanted to come back to. We're actually revisiting the music subject. But as always, until next time, Crystal Warriors, keep on gaming.